Is Joe Mazzulla fed up with the losing, with the laziness? The way he's using his guys suggests he might be. And are there concerns about Al Horford? We'll talk about it right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Yup. Being down, be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Back to back, if I say it, it's stamp. Locked on number 19, the best one, the next one. Juice loose in your pool now for the next run. It's the C's, who else could it be? What they gon' say now? Screaming like JT Karalis, recap the madness every game, every practice. Best daily pod, no cap like Brad Beckett. Plus like Drew to KP, tap in daily. Primetime dapping D White on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. I got you covered every Monday through Friday. Bonus podcasts when they play on a Friday or Saturday night, or when Luka Doncic gets traded in the middle of nowhere. I will do a bonus podcast for you when things like that happen. So make sure you're subscribed. The best way to get these podcasts is to subscribe. They show up directly on your favorite podcasting app. It's also on YouTube. You can go subscribe there. Watch the videos, get into the comment section, share your opinion. I'm John Karalis. I have been covering this team for about 20 years. I'm doing it right now for Boston Sports Journal. And today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. It's right around the corner. No better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5. And if you win, you can score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. So a couple of like, I don't know, hot takes coming out of the game, the comeback against Philly. So I figured let's get the most hot takey guy I know.
That's me.
Tom Westerholm. Tom putting his beanie on, just preparing for the scorching hot takes. I don't know how that or I don't know what that means, but you're doing it.
That's it. This is my hard hat to beat back the Flames.
The take hat. This is Tom's take hat.
I mean, I've been known to have some takes. I'm thinking
you've had a take or two in your life.
Yeah.
So let's start with this. I have been struck by the minutes that especially Jayson Tatum has been playing.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's always been a high minute guy. We do this every year. We get into the is Jayson Tatum playing too many minutes conversation, but this isn't necessarily the same Jayson Tatum playing too many minutes conversation because in this game against Philly, both he and Jaylen Brown played the entire second half. Tatum's played a couple of entire second halves recently. And my take is I think Joe is like he's been desperate to get back on, not desperate, but dying to get back on this winning track. I think between that and after the game, when he talked about the math evening out, he was like, we shot whatever we shot in the first half, and then we shot like 12 of 15. He's like, so the math evened out and the effort. We played harder in the second half. And so math and effort. And so Joe says that stuff there's a meaning behind it. Deliberately, he says this stuff. Between that and all the minutes that he's playing his top two guys, it just makes me feel like he's just not rolling with the, we're going to do what we do. We're going to play the minutes that we play. If we win, we win. If we lose, it sucks, but we're going to try to win with a certain minutes distribution. No, I think Joe's trying to win these games, and he's searching for ways to win these games, and it's on the guys to put in the effort to do it.
Yeah, it's interesting how Joe hasn't shied away from, like, you feel like sometimes, like, coaches are going to protect players, right? And then, like, they might say one thing in the media and then say another thing in film. And I mean, Joe does that, I think, probably from time to time.
Sure.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? But he hasn't necessarily shied away from the effort side of things. Like we touched on it the other day where you were like, yeah, like, there was that time where he we were really bad. Like, like,
yes. Yeah.
He does kind of acknowledge that. And that effort thing, I mean, even like the way his face looked when he said it, where he was kind of like, effort, like that math and effort, like, like it's this very simple equation and he knows what it is. and the players know what it is. And he's assuming that we all know what it is, that it's a simple equation. It just comes down to math and trying hard. And, the math may or may not have been mathing. And I think that the effort may or not have been efforting, in Joe's opinion. Because I don't know, he seems to be saying this stuff kind of on purpose.
Yes. And so it speaks to, I think, the malaise part of it, where I know that people listening and watching are going to say, well, it's Joe's job to get these guys motivated, which, I mean, to a degree, yeah, but also this is the NBA, man. This is the NBA. This isn't college. This isn't where you get like the rah-rah speech. Joe is not going to come into the locker room on February 2nd and be like, guys, need your attention on this one. Like, given the big speech, like, yeah, let's go. Is he going to do that 100 times a season? How many motivational speeches can the guy give? Like, people want the coach to go off, but like, you only have so much you can say before guys go, yeah, we've heard this before. This means nothing.
Like, these are not children. You know what I mean? It's like, like you can't, just because if you bring a lot of energy to a speech, that doesn't, these are adults. These are grown men who are like, what? Yeah, dude. Yeah. All right. I'm going to go out there and woo, go team. I'm going to go try. Like,
do it for your family. Do it for the city. Like, my family's cool with me no matter what.
Yeah, my family's pretty happy with the money that I'm bringing in.
Yeah,
like,
I make $50 million. Like, don't tell me about my family.
My wife is pretty happy. My kids are pretty happy. My grandkids and great grandkids are going to be pretty happy with what I don't need this rah-rah stuff. And like, I mean, you and I, like we were talking about it before we came on. It's like, as reporters, trying to get guys to give you a good answer is so hard. And that's just like answering a question. And obviously it's a little different when it's a coach. Obviously that's a different thing, but it's like, it's not always easy to get a bunch of grown men to just like do what you tell them. Like, especially a bunch of guys who are the absolute pinnacle of their profession, who, have been doing this since they were very, very small children. Like, like you're not going to be able to just rile them up at a moment's notice. Like, no coach is going to be able to do that.
No, that's not how it works. And that's the whole point of this. Like, I want people to understand that's not how it works. And frankly, that's not how it's supposed to work in the NBA. Like, this is the Mad Men meme where, she says, you never say thank you. And he says, that's what the money is for. That's you're supposed to motivate us. That's what the money is for. Mm-hmm. Like, even down to JD Davison making $500,000. That's much more than anybody listening, watching for the most. Maybe, hey, if you're looking, if anybody's watching or listening, and you're going, no, I'm actually making more than that. Like, congratulations. No. I'll put my Venmo on the screen, Cash App or something. But seriously, like, these guys make plenty of money, and built into the salary is you're supposed to try every day and you're supposed to do all this. But we also understand that long season, and they know how to win and they know how to turn it on, and they just came off a championship, and they are aware, like, they all know. And it's just, sometimes you can't, like, it doesn't matter who you are, what you're doing in your job. Like, we're just at a stretch where some of these guys they're just not motivated. And it really is. It's Tatum and Brown. It is Tatum and Brown, because when they're not motivated, or they're just kind of like, we know what we can do. We're not feeling it right now. Jaylen gets backdoored. Jayson gets backdoored. They fly out of control in a closeout and get beat very easily, and then puts the entire rest of the team into rotation. Like, all of those things happened in this game until Jaylen Brown said, you know what? I am going to lock up Tyrese Maxey. And Jayson Tatum said, you know what? I am going to close out on, with discipline on Maxey and block a 3-point shot. Like, oh, wow. They just a little bit of discipline, a little bit of like fire. And you guys are suddenly you outscore the Sixers, a professional basketball team, by 34 points in 15 minutes. Like, come on.
And you know what math is? Math is the water reaching its level, right? Where the Celtics missed all those threes and then they started making them. So realistically, Joe broke it down pretty well, laid it right out for you, said math and effort. That's what it is. It was just the math finally, reached where the average where it should be at. The effort was where it should be at. Look at that. 26 points gone, 8-point win. Pretty simple.
I'll find the Jaylen Brown quote when we come back about like these guys. Every once in a while, they drop these tiny little gems in the middle of their post games. You're like, oh, you know. Again, this is what the Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm pointing at the screen. I'm like, oh, that you said it. You said the thing. You said the thing out loud. I'll share that when I come back. Today's show is brought to you by BetterHelp. What are some of your relationship green flags? We often hear about the red flags people should avoid, but what if we focus more on identifying the positive signs in our relationships, those green flags? If you're not sure what they look like, therapy can help you identify them, actively practice them, and even embody that green flag energy yourself. Whether you're dating, married, building a friendship, or just working on yourself, therapy can help you form relationships that love you back. Therapy helps you develop healthy boundaries and improves your communication skills. It empowers you to set clear expectations and express your needs in relationships. Therapy provides tools for managing conflict in ways that strengthen your connections rather than break them down. BetterHelp makes it easy by offering online therapy with over 30,000 licensed therapists to choose from. And if you need to switch therapists, you can do so at no extra cost. Discover your relationship green flags with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Hey, if you're looking at the feed, you're going to see the Locked On East squad. I'm not on the podcast today, but I am on that very often. Every Tuesday, you're going to get the Locked On East squad podcast with a bunch of our East hosts. They're going to be talking about all the big topics in the conference. This one is going to be talking a lot more about Luka and that big trade and the ramifications and all of that. So make sure that you are checking that out. And if you're wondering why that's on the feed, because, hey, John's not on there. It's there because we're all on there, and it's on everybody's feed in the Eastern Conference. So go check that out. All right, Tom Westerholm. I got to find this quote because what Jaylen said afterwards, and basically he let us in on like what they do when they screw up.
As
he
you're
said,
looking for that, okay, never mind. I was gonna note that he was also chatty. He was kind of chatty because he was also willing to talk about Luka and that whole trade. Interesting press conference. Anyway,
yeah, he he talked about like the end of the game, and there's a huge lead, and the Celtics were on the verge. Like, a lot of the questioning was Celtics being on the verge of pulling the starters. It was looking embarrassing in the third quarter. They were down 26. It didn't look like, honestly, how many people saw that massive run coming? I didn't see that kind of comeback coming. And so Jaylen said,
I texted my dad and said, just go to bed.
Yeah, no, seriously.
Yeah.
And I was already formulating the embarrassing effort conversation, like the piece I was going to write afterwards. Like, I was on the verge of starting the piece and saying, like, guys, I get it. I get that you're like not that into it right now, but at least have a little bit of pride to not go out there and look this bad. Like, but you don't have to give 100%, but don't give 0% either.
Right.
So Jaylen said, how easy it is to just call it a night, throw the subs in there and just come up with some kind of excuse to tell the media. But we rallied back, put the effort in, we turned it up and stayed together and persevered through a win. That quote right there, I'm like, come up with some kind of excuse to tell the media. I'm like, things that I just cannot say on this podcast. I'm like, thank you though for letting us in on this. Thank you for letting us in on the, hey, you know what, guys? We could have cashed it in and we would have all gotten together and figured out a way to spin the BS and tell you something. But we put the effort in, we turned it up, we stayed together, we persevered. I mean, like, you're rubbing your head, you're rubbing your face, because it's like, are you really? And look, I'm not trying to get on Jaylen.
Yeah.
Because I find this more funny than infuriating.
Yeah.
It's so funny that he said the part out loud. He said the quiet part out loud. And that right there, between Joe playing these guys the whole second half and Joe mentioning the effort and Jaylen saying, like, yeah, we could have just chalked it up and made some excuses, which Jaylen's the one who's always saying, I'm not making excuses. Like, that right there tells you, I think, everything you need to know about this recent up and down stretch.
It does. Yeah. I mean, and you, like, you know, right, when as a member of the media, as a fan, when you're watching, when like you can see, we can all see. I think I would be fascinated to know if the players think that when they're not giving full effort, that they are getting one over on us when they, you know what I mean? Like
these guys can never tell.
Like, do they? Yeah, like, oh, we got away with it again, man. We're just so good at spinning this. Like, I don't know.
No, because you know what it is? This is the other meme. I'm just referencing memes. I need to put these on the podcast. It's the Chris Farley SNL, like, where those are actually like Folgers crystals. He's like, you son of a, and he just goes into a rage. Like, they want us to believe like they're the hidden camera, like, we switched your coffee. And the fans are like Chris Farley, like, flipping tables, and like, yeah, that's what's happening here.
Right. Like they're doing one of those magic tricks where you like hold a sheet up, but you're standing in a doorway. And then when you drop the sheet, like you duck behind the doorway real quick.
Yeah.
Where did he go?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The magic. You have fooled me with your magic, sir. Please come back, sorcerer.
And like, look, I mean, it's like, we kind of make excuses for the players sometimes for their effort, right? Like, because it's like, because you kind of understand why it isn't. I mean, you understand why it's not there all the time. It's like, yeah, dude, like, you just won a title. Like, how could I blame you for not being up, for playing against like the Sixers without any of their, without their two, kind of biggest
Sixers without half their team,
Pelicans
without half their team.
Yeah, like, who could really be that upset with you for not being at like full tilt like you were in June?
I'm not going to
comment
section and let you know who can be really upset. But yeah, no, I get your point.
Yeah, like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, wow, like, like, how dare you? But at the same time, it's like, but also, like, I don't know, man. Don't tell me that you're giving 100% when, you know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, we gave it all we had and it just didn't work out tonight. It's a tough league. It's like, it is a tough league, but like, some of these teams aren't as tough as you make them. You know
what Jaylen did though, right? By saying that is the next time I'm there and the Celtics put out a stinker and he comes up with a bunch of stuff, the ready-made follow-up question is, well, Jaylen, remember after the Sixers game, you said that after some of these games, you make up excuses to tell the media. Yeah. Are these some of those excuses? And just to see what he's going to,
I don't understand the question is what you're going to get the classic Jaylen. I don't like it and I won't respond to it.
Yes. He will stare at me and he'll say, next question. is what's going to happen.
Or he'll ask you to rephrase it. He does do that sometimes. Like, can you rephrase that?
What do you mean by that? Jaylen, are you BSing me right now? Are you giving us a line of excuses like you said you sometimes do? And can we just be real with each other? Just be real with us and say, hey, you know what? We just didn't have the energy tonight. I couldn't find the motivation. This other team sucks. And he's not afraid of telling the other team they suck because he said flat out in that same post game, they can't guard me.
They can't guard me. Yeah, like he said it a few times too. Like
he said it, like especially against this team, they can't stop me. Or like
this bunch of bums. And then
he has like no fear of like
and
that.
Then he said like Tyrese Maxey, he's a really good player. And then he was like, but he's so little that like, he's telling Tyrese Maxey to get his weight up as he's calling him a good player. Like
he gave him the verbal too little.
Yeah. He's like
he gave him the verbal too little. It was hilarious. So I don't know, man. So all of this, the whole first 20 minutes of this podcast is like, I think Joe Mazzulla really he can't fathom this. He can understand human nature. And he understands that the guys are having some troubles, and he likes that because they have to fight through it. But also, Joe is an absolute maniac. He's the guy who said he would try to run a marathon and he'd just run till he dies.
Yeah.
Joe is not the guy that will ever be like, I have to, I can't play down to this competition. But it's like, Drew Carter and Scal had a moment. Let me take a break because the moment that he had with Scal tells me a lot.
Before you do, because it won't make sense if we say it after the break, I just want to note that Joe Mazzulla he understands human nature, but he's more of a fan of animal nature. Like he likes animal nature better. That's that's more his speed.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. I'll get into what Scal said that explains exactly what I'm talking about next. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, it's Super Bowl 59. The Eagles, the Chiefs. I am pretending to be excited about that game. I don't care about it. But you know what's going to be fun? Maybe opening up the FanDuel app while the game's going on and trying to predict the first touchdown, calling the MVP, betting on the coin toss. Get a little skin in the action so I can at least be invested in the game. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds. Feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. Live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field. And the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's the icing on the cake. I know what I'm going to do. I know what I can spend. I'm going to set my limit. They have it. As soon as you log in, set your budget. I know what I can spend for that day. So I'm going to set that, and I'm going to have some fun betting on. At least I can come out a winner on FanDuel, and I can just have some fun with my disposable income. Download the app. Head to the FanDuel.com to get started. Just bet $5. And if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Hey, go sign up for the new Celtics newsletter, Locked On Celtics newsletter. It's at LockedOnDaily.com. Go, you put your email in, you sign up, you get directly to your inbox Monday through Friday. The Celtics NBA fantasy coverage. It's all right there. Open it up, read it, get caught up. If you miss a podcast, this is a great way to keep up with the podcasts that you miss because it kind of includes a summary and links in case you want to catch up on stuff. LockedOnDaily.com. Click on that Locked On Celtics logo. So before I was talking about Scal and Drew Carter, and like Scal obviously is the NBA player and he's supposed to have like all this perspective. And Drew kind of brought up was there trouble kind of getting up for these games? And Scal was like, I never had that luxury. So I'm the wrong person to ask. I never had the luxury of coming into a game and being like, because you never knew, like, even at his best, Scal was, a role player. And like, that's, if he ever didn't bring the energy, then very easy to be like, all right, Scal, sit down, man. Yep. You're not playing again. It's going to take you weeks to earn back that trust. He always had to play with that energy. That's why I said this is Jaylen and Jayson. And they have the luxury because look what they did in this game. They're like, all right, with you 3 minutes to go. Hey, JB, you want to start trying now? Yeah, that sounds good. Boom. 54-20 run. We're done. They have the luxury of doing that. And when it comes to defense, all it takes is one or two guys to just not care, and the rest of the defense looks like absolute crap because Jaylen goes running out to the perimeter with no plan, no control. That guy drives by him. Now Luke Kornet has to leave his guy in that and step up, and Luke Kornet's guy from the dunker spot just ducks in, and it's a wide open dunk. And people are like, "Oh, whoa, who helped? Whose guy is that? Why did Luke's guy?" Yeah, because Luke Kornet is bringing the energy. I think Derek White is generally bringing the energy. Most of these guys are bringing, like, maybe not Drew Holiday for, he's like playing the old man game. But it starts at the top. It starts at the top. Now, speaking of old man game,
Yeah.
Al Horford did not play at all in the second half. The opposite. Is it the toe? Is it because he was questionable for a couple of these games, and you're like, oh yeah, this is just quite, he'll play, and he didn't, and then he comes out and look, without Embiid, that the Sixers became a super fast team.
Yeah.
Al has been able to hang in the past, even with these super fast teams, at least to a point where, like, we're still going to play them.
Yeah.
For them to go to Luke Kornet for the entire second half, they didn't say anything about his foot. I feel like they could have bailed him out and said, hey, yeah, like after the game, Joe was asked, and Joe's answer was, yeah, we just wanted to go a different direction with the single big. He could have just said, Al's toe started acting up. He'll be fine. It started acting up. We decided to sit him down, and we went with Luke. And that would have been the end of it. But now it's like,
Yeah.
And that raises questions about some of these matchups where if you do end up with, if you play OKC in the finals, or, if you end up, if the other team says, okay, we're just going to go small and fast, and we're going to eliminate Al Horford, we're going to take our chances with Luke Kornet, that's going to mess up their spacing. Like, that now opens something up here. Are you feeling like my feeling here is like, this might be the first, Al is old. I mean, look, Al is old. This might be the first, like, oh damn, the age is catching up to him.
So I think there's definitely some of that. I mean, Al's old. I don't know what to say. Beyond that, it's like, kind of math, right? Joe loves his math, and
the math is mathing.
Counting. The math is mathing on Al Horford's age. I think, but there's another element to it too, right? Where it's like, part of it is like, okay, Al's getting older, but also part of it is like, as Al gets older, you kind of can't ignore certain things, such as, hey, by the way, Luke Kornet has the best on-off numbers on the team. Like, the team is pretty good when Luke is on the floor. So there's, when you're going to have single big lineups, it makes some sense to have Luke out there sometimes, because he just, there's a lot of stuff that he brings to the table. Not a lot of it shows up in the box score sometimes, right? Like, you'll fairly often see, like, Luke Kornet played 24 minutes, had 4 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist, and he's plus 19 in the box score, right? Like, it doesn't always like show up, but like the stuff that he's doing matters quite a bit. And so when you look at Horford's age, you look at the minutes, you look at, hey, like, if there's a guy who can come in and play some of these, it's not going to hurt anything to put it, and it might help to have Kornet out there. Like, I think we're reaching a point where, you kind of like, Al's always kind of been that sixth man. Yeah. I don't know if he's that now, I think it's like we're kind of reaching this point where other guys are as useful as him, and that can be a good thing. Like, it's great that Luke Kornet can come in and pitch in just as much. Can be really effective. So, like, I think there's some of that too, right? Where it's like, hey, as Al gets a little older, other guys might just catch him in terms of production, in terms of how much they help the team.
Yeah. That's it.
And that is not in any way, shape, or form ripping on Al Horford.
No,
more than anything, that's like, Luke Kornet's been really good this year.
Luke has been good. It justifies our earlier start Luke conversations.
That wasn't a bad take.
It wasn't a bad take. And you know what? Like, I think if we're having like the back-to-backs, where Al sits one and Kristaps sits one, maybe we're in a point where, hey, you know what? Start Luke on like the non-Chris. Just start Luke and bring Al off the bench and just keep that
I honestly
flow
can't
going.
remember which game that was, but they just did that, right? Like, I don't remember.
That was the game what was the last game at home where Al was in the starting lineup and then they sat him.
Yeah. And then they yanked him
And
last
like
minute,
all the games run together. I forget who it was, but it was
the game after Houston, right?
Yeah.
Whoever that was.
Just drawing a blank. Seriously, we're at the point where I'm like, who did they just play? What day?
Chicago. It was Chicago.
Chicago. Okay, great.
Got him.
Yeah, but that's where they were like, oh yeah, he's fine. He's still available, and like he didn't play at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I think we're at a point where I'll bring back the start Luke conversation.
I love it.
On the back-to-backs. Start Luke, keep Al on the bench, limit his minutes, and hope for the best in the playoffs. Like, I think we're at that point. I do think we're at that point. So, and again, not a knock on Al. If anything, it's a compliment to Al that he's still this important, and it is a compliment to Luke, like you said. It is a great, like, Luke has done great, and he's good enough where you can start him. And I think there's value to having the guy who doesn't need the ball out there.
Yeah.
With Tatum and Brown and Drew and Derek. Like, having one guy who doesn't need the ball.
Sam, up and down the line. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just you put Luke in the dunker spot. He's good enough in the pick and roll. He knows the role. He can play in that short roll and pass out of that short roll. He's good at that. Yeah, he's good in the dunker spot. Like, he's not like always going to catch and go up and dunk. And maybe that leads to a couple of misses around the rim and all of that stuff. But that's fine. That's fine. I'd rather have that element, and let's just keep Al on the bench and kind of just preserve him as much as you need to. And then, you know what? It's February now. So March, April, that's coming up soon. Just put Al on ice. Keep him around. Play him so he stays in rhythm. Don't mess with that. Don't mess with the rotations too much because you want to keep some level of continuity. But just whatever the least amount that you can play him, do that. And then in the 4 weeks before the playoffs, start to ramp him up again and get him ready for the playoffs. That I think is the plan.
Yeah. So I think it makes a lot of sense.
All right. So that's one. I got one makes sense today. So I'm going to end on that one. Tom, always appreciate you, my friend.
Appreciate you, man.
And I do appreciate all of you, the listeners, the watchers, the viewers. I like saying watchers. It just makes people sound creepy. You're watching me. The viewers, that sounds just more professional. Everybody who is consuming this podcast. Yeah, I'm done. I've completely, my brain is completely fried now. Thank you so much for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. I do love you all. Thank you so much. Now I would love it if you spread the word. Tell everybody, when you tell them that they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast. It's here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.